Okay, welcome to the third session. This is June the 25th, and this is session 3 of Better Each Day. So we focus in the third session on the actual Rubicon manual. The concept that we are here about on this session is focusing not on the compass necessarily, which is the little device that folds up like this. And I do one of these every single week. So we talked about in the last session, really helping people to connect to what brings them happiness. And here's the reason why. And then we're going to jump into the actual manual here. We'll talk about something. There's a key concept that Sean Achor, that I love his book, The Happiness Advantage. He wrote that about 12 years ago. And then he wrote another book about 2 years ago called Big Potential. And there's so much in both of them, but I built this Better Each Day program around his particular insights. I love his research. He went to Harvard, went there on his degree program was, I believe it was a master's degree in divinity, I believe. And he was actually comparing and contrasting the Buddhist philosophy belief system against the Christian philosophy belief system.
Yeah,
looking at what was the inspirational and what was different and what was the same. But in the middle of all that, he was able to find out what actually created this thing called happiness, and how important is happiness in our life? How often is it missing? And what he found by his studies is that he wanted to take it out into the real world. So right after 2008, when the Great Recession had basically blown up so much of our economic environments, his first talk was actually in Switzerland. And I don't know if you've ever had a chance to be around European bankers, especially Swiss bankers. They don't really smile very often. They don't tend to me, in my experiences of working with them 20 years ago, I didn't really find that they were very happy people. Many of them were very wealthy, very smart individuals, very educated individuals, but I didn't see many of them with a smile on face. In fact, most of them had a frown. I don't know if that's where they were that particular disposition. So can you imagine a guy from Harvard with a degree in divinity talking about a book that he had just written called The Happiness Advantage? And at their annual convention, they introduced him as a guy from America because we've lost so much money in all of our finances during the Great Recession, and we're gonna let this guy from Harvard come talk to you about being happy. Now, how excited do you think those individuals were to hear from this guy from Harvard? Probably not. And that was his first talk. So talking about how to take what he had studied in the lab, in a great university, and how do you take those studies in what causes people to be happy, and how do you convert those out into the real world, especially standing in front of a bunch of Swiss bankers from UBS. And that's the way his stories kind of begin, is that's how I started finding out, will this really work in the real world? And what he found is by being sincerely interested in other individuals and doing this on a regular basis, and the sincere interest translated into gratefulness, into being thankful. And what they were able to measure in those organizations is, from that starting point, what happened to the productivity of the individuals that were practicing this new procedure. So if you take the time to be present, if you take the time to share with other people that are your peers, whatever that means, coworkers, family, friends, but taking the time to be sincerely interested. And here's the definition that Sean Achor brings out, is the Greek definition of happiness was the joy felt moving toward one's potential. Think about that. The joy felt moving toward one's potential. What does that definition mean to you?
Well, it means a lot to everybody, I think.
Tell me what does it mean to you? How does your mind interpret that when you hear that definition?
Well, for me, it's kind of saying be the best person you can be, operating at your full capacity, utilizing all your talents, your skills to go to the next or version, or to be your best version of yourself.
Well, I think that it's sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
But even high performance may not make you happy. I mean, I know a lot of billionaires that say, you know, are you high performance? But they're not happy. I mean, to be high performance, really, you got to get in the eat that frog, or like you say, get in the grit. What do you say, Steve?
Oh, the Marines call it embrace the suck.
Yeah, embrace the suck. I mean, that's really what high performance is. It's not really about being happy. So,
interesting.
yeah.
That's a good
So,
distinction.
but yeah, because if you want to really be, I mean, if you go to Elon Musk, which is a very high performance individual who's operating on extraordinary levels,
Sure.
if you probably meet with him, he may not be that happy. I'm not sure. I mean, I can see a difference between some of my mentors and some of the ones, you know, they're a little bit more abrasive. The high performers are extremely abrasive. The ones that are more relaxed are making less money than them.
Interesting.
But it's not about just making money. It's about being happy. I mean, you can be on a beach by yourself and be extremely happy. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean you're operating at your full potential.
So let's dig into that a little bit. So let's define potential. So if potential is defined as performance, then I'm okay with that, because that's performance is a measuring stick. And when we talk about happiness, it feels a little more ephemeral. Is that maybe the right word? It's hard to like grasp it. You know what it feels like, but when I ask you to define it, you're like, oh, it's this. Go ahead, Steiner. Do you have a definition for?
Yeah, I have a. I think sincerely that if you go through, you help a person with this process to help him get a new potential, then you automatically will feel happy.
Yes.
After you've done it.
Okay. So I'm with you with that. So what you're doing is when you're helping someone find out what their potential is, you're really finding out what is happiness. And if you cross wires and define potential as simply a level of performance, like how much money can you make, or I don't know, how much growth do you have in your investment portfolio, or how many cars do you have in your garage, or those are kind of performance things. And that's not what I believe the Greeks were talking about. Potential is your personal ability to be your better version.
Yeah.
Now,
That's what I sorry, I keep losing internet, so I'm coming in and out, so I'm missing some of the conversation. But for me, I think each person's purpose is what is going to make them happy, and each person's purpose is different. So just like we went around the room, and you know, for Steiner, you know, it's the Viking and the generational achievements and stuff like that. For Sabrina, you know, it's her plants, and you know, but as Sabrina also said that when Steiner was speaking, she had some inspiration. Just for me, like when Steiner was speaking, when you were asking what his feelings are, I was in my mind speaking about my feelings. So like the words that were coming out is like, while I was standing on the ship and imagining myself on that ship, I would be really proud of my father and his fathers and you know, my ancestors. And when Sabrina was talking about her plants and her, you know, petting her dog and stuff like that, I was thinking, oh, for me, that would be a sense of peace, you know, peace, a sense of calm and peace. And yet for both of them, it was slightly different things. Like even for you, when you were talking talking about your coffee and that took me back to the Zambezi. And
Sure.
that's why I think that when we tell our story of passion with feeling,
Yes.
it inspires other people. And
Yes.
by inspiring them to find their destination or their purpose and their
Yes.
why.
So very good with what you're picking up there, Nisa. Here's the interesting process. People are naturally afraid to talk about their feelings. Our world is very weird. It somehow going through school or somewhere in that process, we are penalized and made fun of and bullied when we talk about our feelings, especially with something that's happiness, cotton balls, kittens, rainbows, and cupcakes. Okay. And I'm saying this, and you can notice my head doing this because I'm being snarky because, you know, I know when I grew up in my environment in Texas, if I had ever mentioned, you know, on the football squad, anything about my feelings, I would have been pounded into sand because that was not allowed. You know, go ahead, Steiner.
Yeah, was just thinking about it. It's one thing to go through it in this session here, and you talk about how you do it and so on. But I'm not sure and what person I would do the practice on, because maybe I would just feel awkward to do it. I'm not
okay, and I'm okay with that. I remember Steiner, when you were talking about posting, you know, a couple of years ago when your book was coming out, and then you found out everybody really embraced you, and they weren't going to be, you know, they weren't going to throw rocks at you. They actually loved you. Here's my point. When you're going to do this, and you're saying, well, I don't know who I'm going to try this out on. This has got to be something that becomes part of who you are, not just for a quick benefit or an outfit of how can I sell somebody something, or how can I just do something. When you communicate at this depth, what you first have to do is you have to be first brave enough to share what makes you vulnerable. So to build trust and to build relationships, you have to be able to share something that makes you afraid. That's vulnerability. When you are vulnerable and you talk about something that is deeply meaningful, that's passionate, that's something that you care about, and you risk, vulnerability means risking that someone laughs at you, risking that someone doesn't agree with you, risking that someone may decide not to be your friend anymore. Okay, you have to feel that, but you have to be brave enough to cross the threshold, because when you share something that is a unique experience, what you're doing is you're giving the other person a pattern that then tells them, hey, it's okay for you to share something back with me that makes you feel vulnerable because I went first. And they're not going to pick up on the fact that you're trying to be brave and courageous. They're going to feel the depth of your, I use the word passion, but they're going to feel the realness, the genuineness, the authenticity, that when you share something like having coffee at the top of the trail in front of this triple tier waterfall, and you can see my face, because the expression and the excitement and the bite of the protein bar mixed with the great taste of the coffee that's hot, and it's cold up there because there was still snow on the ground. In the middle of June in Oregon, there's snow still on the ground because it was so high. And it was the mixture of all this and me in that place. It was like a sanctuary. And I'm just like, wow, I'm sitting on this big log, and the water is really running 6 inches away from my feet at the edge of the bank, huge waterfall cascading down. And I'm like, and I took my camera out to do a video. I am knowing that when I hit record, it's not going to do justice. I don't care how good my camera is. It's only going to take a little picture of this amazing experience that I'm in the middle of. But when I express it to you, you can see my facial expressions. You can see how cool it was that I was there. So when I tell you this story, then you can come back and tell me a story and go, oh, well, it wasn't climbing up the top of a mountain, having coffee and a protein bar in front of a waterfall. Niece is telling me about her trip down the Zambezi River. Each of us has our own, and Sabrina's telling me about how she goes out and feeds her birds, and how she loves her little succulent plants and how she paints the rest of her office. And Steiner, you're telling me different experiences that you have with shipping vessels and your admiration for your country. And you've told me before, last week, I think you were telling me about when you were in your country's army and how you went up to that island to train, and it was dark all the time because it was so far north. Those are experiences that you cannot get someone to tell you until you first have to be brave enough to tell things that you're risking them not liking you anymore, but you tell them anyway because you're sharing passion. Go ahead, Disa.
So I just want to say, like, to Steiner, it's like when you're talking about something that you love, it's all about vibration. So when you're speaking with love, it's the vibration that you're sending out. It's like when you're speaking about something that you're passionate about. And they also say that, I don't know the exact percentage, but your body language, I think it's something like 70% is the communication that happens between people. So like when Sabrina was talking about the color of her office and stuff like that, her face lights up. When Steve is talking about his experience up the mountain, he gets animated,
Yes.
and when you were talking about the
I
Vikings,
saw you also went happy when Steve told you the story. Right now.
Yes.
I saw you smile.
Yeah.
So
That's fascinating to see.
When we're learning this, okay, I don't want this to be a technique, like it's something that you learn. I want it to become part of who you are as an amazing human being that truly cares about stories. It is the narratives of our lives that are worthy of being shared. And if you want to create meaningful relationships with other people, whether that objective is to help them become their better version or to move past a difficult period in their life, it is in the story. It's not sharing a page out of the Rubicon P5 manual. That's not going to make the difference. That is the framework, but it's the bones. But the meat on the bones, the authenticity is you with your personal passion, sharing your story of, Steve, why did you climb up that mountain? Was it just to have, coffee in front of that triple tier waterfall? What was it? What was deeper than that? What gave you that real sense of joy? What was your potential that you were reaching there? And the answer was, it was a combination of everything. It was the relaxation of going someplace new. It was the curiosity of the excitement of visiting a place I had not been in this world yet. It was the experience, true, of the taste and the smell of the coffee and the bar. It was the chance to share a video with people that I love and care about a moment in my life that I had one of the aha experiences, right? I love sharing that. That's what social media is so easy to do is, all of you couldn't be there with me in Oregon climbing up this mountain. So I shared the pictures with you in the video so you could get a little keyhole glimpse of what I had in that moment. And then you get to share yours. So ultimately, the potential is about the narrative. It is, what are you doing in your life that is so meaningful, that is so passionate, that drives you, that excites you, that takes you to that peak mountain summit of your life? And when you share why you paint, you know, your walls pink and your door orange pink, talk about it. Okay. I'm not going to paint my wall that color. I know you sent me some shades the other day, Sabrina, but you know, my point is that something that really motivates you, and that's awesome. And when you share those things, you are taking something that is deep inside of you, not superficial. That's a caring. That's deeper than caring. I can't find the word. But it's so authentic. It's so vulnerable. And I keep using that term because Dr. Brene Brown talks about that so much.
It's
Vulnerability. Go ahead, Steiner. And then Nisa.
The real you.
The real you. Yeah. Being brave enough to really express you. Go ahead, Nisa.
I just want to say, like, you know, a lot of times I used to try to, you know, Steiner was saying, who would I practice this on? Like, I used to try to tell my family, you know, of being grateful and doing this and doing that and everything else. But the thing that really worked was when I got my brothers and sisters to come on this call, because my sister's actually on this call right now. And just this morning, she's in Zimbabwe at the moment, and she just sent out pictures and said, I am grateful for this and I am grateful for that. And that just brought me so much joy, because it was like, oh, fantastic, you know.
Oh,
It's
that's
not
great.
about, yeah, it's not about trying to train them on the Rubicon system. It's not about trying to, you know, teach them the things. It was just by inviting and allowing them to see something and be inspired. They may not be inspired by me, but they'll be inspired by Steve. So yeah.
or Sabrina or Steiner or
Yes, or
you know,
Steiner.
sure.
Yeah.
Um,
So, and she's actually on the call right now, you know, so I don't know if she wants to share anything.
well, I can see she's here. She sent a message a little bit ago, so I'm glad that you're here. So do this next week, and do it from your place that you're coming from. Is not just trying to practice something. I mean, you know, I can go to the batting cage and practice hitting baseballs. Okay. And that was okay, whatever, 30, 40 years ago when I was playing ball. But I don't want this to be something rote and routine, like stepping into a batting cage. I want this to be something that, oh, Prim, I see you've got your hand up. You want to jump in here and say something? Oh, I saw a hand go up and then it went down. Okay, so maybe she already.
It might be her connection because she's in Zimbabwe, but maybe she needs to unmute herself.
Yeah. I'm giving her a second there.
Hello.
There you
Hello,
are.
Steve.
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Nisa, and everybody else.
Wonderful.
Hi.
So tell us what you're doing in Zimbabwe today.
I am sitting right next to our mother, our dear mother, and enjoying watching a little bit of television, and also listening to you.
Ah, good. Okay. So tell us about these pictures that you shared this morning that Nisa was talking about.
Okay. I recently, you know, realized that sometimes we try so hard to achieve A, B, C, D, and we get, should I say, either despondent or discouraged or negative about all the things that you haven't managed to achieve. And, you know, your list of things to do every day doesn't end. And I just thought that perhaps if I just zoom into a few positive things that I am truly grateful for, that you know, and if I shared it with my siblings, you know, I would be able to share with them how it made me feel. It felt like a sense of achievement, or I felt like happy. I felt happy. I felt also acknowledging whoever contributed to the little things, to my happiness.
Right. And that is the amazing thing, that it doesn't have to have structure. It has to have genuineness.
Yes.
It's a sharing. And having no agenda is more powerful than trying to do something that, like you said, you're trying to tick the box. Okay. I did A, B, C, D, and that feels very sterile. And guess what happens is the people that you're trying to communicate this agenda to, look at their reactions. Their reactions are, they push back, they pull away. You feel this barrier that goes up in front of you. You can't build a relationship unless you first risk relating. You have to have the vulnerability of being genuine, of being, of sharing in that place that's just you. That's what Steiner was saying. You're real you. And that's so, oh my gosh, it's so valuable when you share your summit experiences. And your summit experiences could be pictures of your backyard that you're having coffee in with someone you care about. Yeah, Prim, go ahead.
Yes. Actually, I I posted really small things, like a welder who happened to be passing the yard, calling out, "Pots, pots, pots." And I whistled, or we got the gardener to whistle and call him in. And he came in. This is Africa. So he came in, and I had a silver teapot, an old teapot that I didn't want to get rid of, or I wanted to use. And my mother pointed out that the handle was not quite connected. And I thought, oh, I don't want to throw this little teapot away. It was a stainless steel teapot. Well, he came in, and I said, well, how much for welding this little handle? And he said $3. And I said to him, $3, not $1. And he said, I said, okay, let's settle for $2. So he said, okay, ma'am, I'll do it for you. And right there in front of me, he welded it. And while he was doing it, I was taking a video recording.
Oh, cool. I love it.
And then that was one thing. And then there was another thing where the ladies come on the head, they bring a box of vegetables, fresh organic vegetables, right to your doorstep.
Right.
And I sat with the lady, and I chose beautiful fresh vegetables, which brought me, maybe Sabrina can relate to this kind of thing that makes you happy.
Sure.
I felt so blessed. I felt so blessed to have somebody come right to my doorstep with organic vegetables. It was little things that I decided to try to appreciate about being in Africa, where everything can be extremely challenging.
Sure. And bravo, you did. I mean, that's wow. I mean, it doesn't have to be well, and I'll give you my contrast. You know, I took the video at the top of this, 1,300-foot mountain with the triple tier waterfall. That was my wow experience. But I can I see in your countenance, in your expression, those interactions with the welder and with the kind lady that brought those amazing vegetables there. And you took the opportunity to capture it with video or pictures and then share it. Wow, that's us.
That's the way to do it.
Yes, that is it. And sharing those little moments, because it was something that you got to feel that level of gratefulness. You were in the moment and you felt something, the connection with another human being or particular place and time, and boom, you grab that picture. That's really how we make the world better, is helping other people realize that it's okay to do that. That's the leading by examples that Steiner, you were talking about earlier, is you can't make everyone be motivated about what motivates you. But when you share what motivates you, and you share in that vulnerability, what you're doing is that's the example you're setting is don't do what I do. And maybe vegetables doesn't wow someone like they wow you, Prim. That's okay. But go climb a mountain and take a picture of a waterfall. Or, you know, in Sabrina's case, she goes and takes some pictures of some birds while she's feeding them because
Yes.
that's meaningful to her. And,
Yes.
you know, Nisa, you know, has some pictures on a beach in Montenegro with this, you know, incredible,
Absolutely
you know,
stunning.
all those things are the things that are amazing. And I started off with Steiner talking about the new picture that I saw of him that he added with him standing on a Viking, on the front bow of a Viking ship, because that's meaningful to Steiner. So find those things and share them. And when you share them, use the video maybe to become more comfortable being vulnerable. That's what Dr. Brene Brown, if you look at any of her talks, she's still one of the top 10 of all time on YouTube. So just type into YouTube Brene Brown and it'll pull up her session. It's about 15, 17 minutes. She's an amazing woman. Her research at University of Houston is some of the best in the world. I've read 3 of her books. She's probably written 5 more since I finished reading those. But what she's talking about in her research is that it's the vulnerability, the courage to be vulnerable, to take the risk, is the ability to make the connection. And when you connect, you relate, you build a relationship. And only when you build it in that fashion can you help other people rise up and experience their summit that maybe they have forgotten to do. That
Thank you very much.
that
Thank you.
makes the difference.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. We'll see y'all next week. Thank you all for sharing, and thank you for being here.
Have a great day, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.